Hello, everyone. My name is Harvey Brownstone, and today's special guest is one of our most beloved and respected actors who's been thrilling audiences with his iconic performances since he first conquered Broadway at the age of 17 in Take a Giant Step, followed by The Desk Set, Golden Boy, The Zulu and the Zeta, and My Sweet Charlie. He also starred on Broadway in A Raisin in the Sun and then made his film debut in the 1961 movie adaptation of the play. His unforgettable portrayal of Fiddler in the groundbreaking miniseries Roots earned him an Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor. And of course, who can ever forget him as Sergeant Emil Foley in An Officer and a Gentleman, for which he won the 1983 Academy Award and Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him the first Black actor to win in that category. Besides his Emmy Award for Roots, he got 7 more Emmy Award nominations for his work in The Century Collection Presents Ben Vereen, His Roots, Backstairs at the White House, Palmerstown, USA, A Gathering of Old Men, Touched by an Angel, Watchmen, and Sadat, for which he was also nominated for a Golden Globe Award. And he got another Golden Globe Award nomination for his magnificent performance in one of my all-time favorite movies, The Josephine Baker Story. He's had 3 Daytime Emmy Award nominations and won the award for Best Children's Special for In His Father's Shoes. He's been nominated 6 times for NAACP Image Awards and won twice. And in 1992, he was awarded with a very well-deserved star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Very soon, we will all get to see him in his latest role as Mr. in the musical film version of The Color Purple. In addition to his illustrious acting career, our guest is an accomplished writer, producer, director, and musician. And perhaps most importantly, he's a social activist, educator, and humanitarian, dedicated to eliminating racism and fighting injustice wherever it exists in all its forms. In 2010, he released his riveting memoir entitled An Actor and a Gentleman, chronicling not only the many triumphs of his monumental career, but also the heartbreaking and sometimes insurmountable obstacles he confronted and overcame as a working actor and especially as a Black man in America. In 2006, he founded the Eracism Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to eradicating racism, fostering cultural diversity, historical enrichment, education, and anti-violence initiatives. I'm deeply honored to welcome the legendary Louis Gossett Jr. to our show. Lou, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Louis and Louis and Louis. It doesn't matter. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Lou, when you listened to that introduction and all of the accomplishments that I mentioned, what went through your mind?
I have a sense of humor, you know. And one of the most famous things that I heard from Menashe Skolnick was when they mentioned him and he looked at me through the curtains and said, "They're talking about me?"
I was talking about you, and sometimes it's hard to absorb the impact that you've had, not only as an actor, but culturally and historically. And sometimes I wonder whether you can really absorb that impact because there's so much love that surrounds you throughout the world.
Well, it's come to the place today, my friend, where there's nothing left but a mutual love and understanding of one another. And the insanity of it is that people are going elsewhere other than that now. There's an end to any other way except our looking at one another, putting our hands on one another's shoulders and say, "I love you, I need you," and they can't do without you. We can't survive without one another. And there it is. There's the foundation. I've had it for quite a few years. There's a t-shirt of it. It shows on and sports, shows in movies. I'm in the right job as an artist. Public servant is what we are. We did that in the King's Court. Now it's our turn to have our religion, our belief, live or die according to how we treat ourselves and one another. Our children will follow that.
Amen to that. Lou, you got into a Broadway play, Take a Giant Step, at the age of 17. after competing against 200 other young actors, and you got the part without ever having had any formal drama training. You don't come from a showbiz family. How did you develop the skill that you had right from the beginning?
Well, there's a history story there. My English teacher in Europe was a very famous Jewish artist. Gustav Bloomberg was his name. And he had to run from Hitler, along with some of his contemporaries, some musicians, some artists, some athletes. And there was a sympathetic Board of Education man. William Jansen was his name in Manhattan, New York. And they would run to Ellis Island, change their names. And he took us, all those guys, into the public school systems. Gustav Bloomberg was Gus Bloom, Abraham Lincoln High School, my English teacher. He said, "Hey, Louis, we're looking for somebody to play a lead on Broadway." Never. Now, I know you've never seen a play before. I just seen you in this one thing. You can't take it with you on high school. Tell your mama to take you down there on Sunday. What can you lose? That's how I got started. Is that not God's gift or what?
It's really destiny. You eventually attended the Actors Studio and you studied with Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, Steve McQueen, Frank Silvera, so many others. How did being a method actor change the way you created your characters when you were already such a great actor?
Well, it forced all the stuff that I was forced not to do in public because of racism. I had to abandon when I got on stage in front of a camera. So the moments were organically, and that's the magic word in Actors Studio, organically effective and believable, whether it was in camera or on stage or not. My life became that way. Sometimes it was not popular by the people who wanted to stick with racism and think, I'm better than you are. But that didn't last very long. Now, today, I'd rather die than change. And I want to include all our children who really need our help, our lessons. This is what you should be after. If you see a gun, put it in the garbage. Touch your brother's shoulder and say, I need you, I can't do without you. But let's do something for our mutual salvation. That's the only answer we have left.
Lou, talk to me about your family, your grandmother. Tell me the influence that your elders had on you, on your soul, on your sensibility.
Well, it's my great-grandmother you're talking about. This is a photograph of me and her. It was 1953, backstage during the run of Take a Giant Step. Now, I was a new kid on the block on Broadway, so I was adopted. I didn't know who these famous people. I've seen photographs in magazines of Paul Robeson and Count Basie and Adam Clayton Powell and Lena Horne and Josephine Baker. I didn't know really who they were, some magazine. But they took care of the new kid on the block. So they brought me sandwiches and barbecue, and they took very good care of this kid. And all of a sudden, Paul Robeson really adopted me. His laugh could break a wall down. And his middle finger could go to my elbow. He's such a large man. So I was just my big brother. And all of a sudden, you can hear, get out of the way. So he gets out of the way. And it's my great-grandmother in a wheelchair. And my heart opens up and I said, oh, Grandma, you came to see me. And she slapped me in my face 5 times. You could hear a pin drop in the bedroom, in the dressing room. I said, Grandma, why'd you slap me? She just slapped me 5 more times. I said, please tell me why you're slapping me. She says, I taught you how to treat your grandma better than that, what I just saw on that stage. And let me make sure you don't say it again. Now Paul Robeson's on the floor in stitches. He's laughing so hard because she taught me how to treat my eldest better than what I said on that stage. She said, I'm going to come back and make sure you don't say it again. Now Paul Robeson's in double stitch. So by the time I got to the line, next time I said it, I stuttered. I had to say the line, but I stuttered. That's the effect of the elders should have us on all of us. And if we continue that training of belief systems, once amongst the other, regardless of what we look like and how we were born and where we come from, the problem's gone.
Well, I'm just so happy that your great-grandmother got to see you starring on Broadway. What an achievement.
She had to be approximately 110 in the photograph, but she had to be more than that because the Bible didn't get started until the slaves were freed. And she remembers the slaves being freed. So when I got to every summer, me and my cousins were sent down to the playground out here in Watkinsville, Georgia. right outside of Athens, which is now agricultural Georgia Tech. That farm, my Uncle Governor Stevens was his name, and his wife had, about 110 acres, predominantly watermelon. My specialty was yellow meat watermelon, honeydew. And you take the seeds and you put them in a toilet paper, wet it, put the seeds on top and put it in the windowsill. Then you watch it germinate. But it germinates to a certain way, and then you plant it, and you baby that plant. It gets large enough, and all of a sudden the watermelon comes out. We won an award. We know nothing about it. But the wagons would pack up. And all the watermelons we grew would go in that wagon. Make a long story short, by the time I went to that Eastern Seaboard train again, the Silver Streak, that Richard Pryor movie, I'd stop at some of these famous restaurants, and some of the other actors would stop. And lo and behold, the watermelons of me and my cousins were on the table.
Wow.
We signed those watermelons with our thumbprint. So one opening night, I did something, I guess maybe something I did. Father for Charlie, one of those things. On my table was a yellow meat watermelon that I grew. It's the sweetest watermelon I've ever tasted in my life.
What a moment. I also want to ask you, Lou, about your dear beloved mom. She died much too young. She was only 57. In your book, you wrote that she always told you, Lou, be careful and don't make any waves. What do you think she meant by that?
She was afraid. She comes from the Southern South. She saw men and women being lynched and killed. And I was becoming famous. And she said, you're going to be just like those others who died. She loved me very much. I take that information to heart, and I've made an adjustment. I'm now getting ready to be 87 years old.
God bless you.
I have no fear. The fear is gone. My fear is gone. My belief system is stronger than fear. So that's one of the things I pass on, just for what it's worth, as an elder. For what it's worth. As soon as you get rid of that fear, replace it with faith and love, you'll be better off.
Now, Lou, of course, everybody remembers you from your amazing performance in Roots. That miniseries was #1 in the ratings. It got 43 major award nominations. Roots won 9 Emmy Awards. But after that show aired in 1977, we all noticed that acting roles for Black actors actually dried up. Do you know why?
Well, in retrospect, I know why. They were not prepared. The same thing happened after I won the Oscar. I didn't work for a year. So you have to prepare. And it took a minute for them to prepare. And since I got the Emmy, they prepared. And I went from there to, I believe, Sadat. I believe I did some big things. But it took a minute for them to create from scratch. What are we going to do with this guy? One thing I did turn down, I regret, is Howard Rollins did Ragtime. I'm not supposed to have done that was created for me. I did not. You
turned it down, the role in Ragtime?
Yes, sir. I don't know what that was, man. Might have been the devil scratching my back or whatever it was. Mistake.
Well, you know what really broke my heart in your book, after you won the Academy Award for An Officer and a Gentleman, you still didn't get equal pay. And when you demanded equal pay, they gave the part to somebody else.
Yes, they did. So I had to deal. And this is, I think, I'm in retrospect. It's one of the things, once you get to a place where you're looking for God, that's what I look for on a daily basis, and communicate. You get your problems answered, but you have to make the attempt to clean up your act and be receptive of the message. There's a reason why I didn't get the money. There's a reason why, because of the mentality that I was up against. God put me up against that to defeat that mentality. And to make a long story short, today the headlines is full of the elimination of racism.
Well, you were at the front row of that. I wonder, is there a character that you've played in your long career that you feel most resembles the real Lou Gossett Jr.?
Yeah, it didn't look like me, but it's that creature from Enemy Mine. His philosophy, his ability to have a fight and to defeat the enemy, but his choice of not. his choice of accepting rather than rejecting, his voice, his philosophy, his prayers. That's where I had to be that. So that's God's tricky way of putting you where you're supposed to be, whether you like it or not. And that's possible for us all.
Have you always felt in your soul that you were being guided and helped by God?
I took it for granted for quite a while. And once you take that for granted, then you're not guided by God anymore. You're guided by yourself and your ego.
And then what happened to make you not take it for granted anymore?
Well, I went on to bad lifestyles, bad decisions, and bad luck. And I blamed other things until finally I looked in the mirror. It's like Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. You take a deep breath, and since God has called me to go someplace else on another life, here I still am. Hell is when you're someplace, still here alive, suffering bad stuff because of my own personal choices. When you get to the place where you make a personal choice not to do that anymore, and in order to do that, you can't do it without God. You have instructions, so you have to prepare on a daily basis to receive the message on a daily basis for the rest of your life. And all the decisions you live and die by. And all of a sudden the sun comes out.
Have you been able to forgive yourself for choices that you made? Are you kind to yourself now?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And so it makes myself like a sponge. It's like a sponge, because now I'm a recipient. You remember Yogi Berra? His quotes were always left field, but he was really right when he says, "It ain't over till it's over." It's like deja vu all over again.
Well, it's certainly not over for you because you play Mr. in the new musical, The Color Purple, starring Fantasia. Are you able to tell us about your experience of making that movie?
It was wonderful being in that movie with some people from that generation. I met Fantasia when she won that award. Week in and week out. And here I am, opposite the woman is the leading lady of a miniseries. And she's the leading lady, and she's giving me hugs. And she sang on my last day of shooting. I think you have that copy.
Well, as a matter of fact, your beautiful niece, Shawana, who I adore, she sent, I'm going to share her with you.
We're going to fight.
You'll win. Shawana sent us a very special video that shows the star of the movie, Fantasia, saying thank you and goodbye to you in a very special way on your very last day on the set. And I would like to show our viewers that video now.
And all that you gave to us today. We thank you so much.
We thank you for everything that you've done. All of the work and races you run. Ooh, we thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dad. Knock him dead now.
Thank you, Dad. I appreciate it.
Knock him dead.
Lou, that is such an emotional video. And you can see how much everybody loves you. How does it make you feel to know the impact that you've had on the younger generation of actors?
It's just like my great-grandmother. She feels that she had something, she passed it on. And those are my instructions, to pass it on for what it's worth. Or they say in Brooklyn, for what it's worth. But as long as we do that, then everything seems to fit.
Lou, in addition to your upcoming film, The Color Purple, I understand you're starring in another movie called Awaken the Reaper. Can you tell us about it?
Well, Awaken the Reaper is kind of a convoluted, but necessarily so. You look at a lot of computers, a lot of double entendres, love intentions. It's extremely important. I'd rather keep it a mystery and let you turn it on and see if you can turn it off.
Can you tell us what role you're playing?
A professor.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Do you find that the new generation of actors are receptive to the lessons that you teach them?
Miraculously, yes. It's a blessing. It seems like now is the time for me to express myself this way, the way I'm expressing myself, even now with you. It's on the tip of my tongue, on the beginning of my forehead. It says I don't have to search for words.
Well, you know, you have an ability in the roles that you've played. You've often played very strong, very bold characters who then reveal some vulnerability. And there's a great deal of wisdom that comes through your soul when you're acting. And I don't know how you manage to do that because everything you've done is so different. And certainly the color purple is not a very likable character that you play.
No.
But you seem to find a way to inject the best of the human spirit in what you do. Who taught you that?
At the studio, people in the studio, there are no villains in anybody's story, including the devil. The devil was created by God. You just have to learn how to sideswipe him and go straight around him to God. It's a daily art form. Whether you're acting or whether you're living, it's about the same. Sometimes you don't like what you're doing, but you do it because you're not in charge. And you wait for timing, and you wait for signals, and you wait for agenda. And when it's time to be called, you get yourself ready, like I get ready for my talk with you.
Well, since we've talked about The Color Purple, which is a musical film, I want to ask you about your music career. Tell me about the song you wrote with Richie Havens called Handsome Johnny. It was first recorded in 1966.
Yes. Well, we welcomed the vets back from Vietnam. And I was part of the society with Peter, Paul, and Mary, Fred Neil, Nielsen, the Beatles, Rolling Stones. We kind of, I didn't grow my hair long, but they did, of course. But we sang these anti-war songs. We had these love-ins and these concerts. So I was told Richie wanted me to sing the song to the Vietnam vets. So we went to this auditorium. It was about 2,500, 3,000 Vietnam vets. And it speaks for itself. And the last line is, "Hey, looking yonder, tell me what's that you see." That's the last line.
A very powerful song. One of my favorite recordings of yours, Lou, is Where Have All the Flowers Gone? You recorded it in 1967, but after that, you got busy making movies and TV shows. You didn't really have much time for your music career. Did you like acting more than making music?
Well, it started with music early on at the First Baptist Church of Coney Island. You know, I was in the intermediate choir. And then the intermediate choir was the chiffon. They turned out to be the Raylettes. And that's where Richie Havens was. And then I was a part of a group called the Gospel Brothers. And every Sunday, we'd go into this contest where we win the fried chicken and hamburgers at the Brooklyn Paramount, which is where they play basketball now. That's where Frank Sinatra would sell the house out, Vic Damone, all those guys. We'd go on Sunday and have a contest. We'd always lose to the Five Blind Boys. That's Ray Charles and all. Or we'd lose it to the Dixie Hummingbirds, which was Sam Cooke, or the Habaneros, which was Jackie Wilson. They all turned pro, and I was part of the Gospel Brothers. And then so I guess I learned to be in front of people. There was no nervousness there. I would rub the elbows with those people who became globally famous. I get it rubbed off.
Did you ever get starstruck when you met those kind of people?
Absolutely. I still do.
Still?
I still do. You know, I would say I miss James Brown. I miss Sam Cooke. But I missed them. Jackie Wilson. Ooh, they gave me goosebumps. They gave me goosebumps. Then there's a man that I have a photograph of. It's a painting of me from a movie called A Gathering of Older Men.
A Gathering of Older Men.
A Gathering of Old Men. It was written by a man by the name of Chester Grimes, who wrote the autobiography of Jane Pittman, that Cicely Tyson went and drank the water out of the fountain.
Yes.
Same. So I played the oldest character of a true story. And my hero was a man by the name of Woody Strode, Strode. You would not know his name, but you would remember Woody Strode when I say he's the one that pulled John Wayne out of a fire building. He's the one that saved Kirk Douglas's life and diminished the Gladiators. He was nominated for Academy Award in Sergeant Rutledge. He got an MVP for the Los Angeles Rams, played football. He's got a couple of gold medals from the Olympics. He died at the age of 87, was then getting ready to be with 16 wives and 22 children. I have a photograph or a painting of me and him during a gathering of old men.
What an amazing chronology of work that you've done. You know, I've been dying to ask you this question. A few years ago, you were the guest host on Turner Classic Movies, and you were asked to screen four of your favorite movies. And you chose Blackboard Jungle, Lifeboat, Touch of Evil, and The Night of the Hunter. Those are all very intense, suspenseful, dark movies. And there's an evil character in every single one of them. What drew you to those kinds of films?
Well, the Lifeboat. My hero there was Canada Lee. He created the American Negro Theater. If there was no Canada Lee, there would be no Sidney Poitier, no Louis Gossett Jr., no Ruby Dee, no Ozzie Davis. That was the black guy with the R, with the Lord. Canada Lee. He was first recognized by John Hodiak and William Bendix and Tallulah Bankhead. He was the one in that night. So that's what. What's the other one? Night of the Hunter. I've always wanted to play that Robert Mitchell role, singing gospel of being a killer and singing it to Aretha Franklin at the time. It never got done. It still should be done. Singing, leaning on Jesus, but he's the one that's killing everybody. What a great opportunity for an actor. Then the third one, Blackboard Jungle. Well, of course, I wanted to be Sidney Poitier. And my friend, who I grew up with in acting studio, was Vince Morrow. You know that name?
Yes.
He's a combat, and he's the one that told Kunta Kinte, your name is Toby. And before we did that scene, Vince, who was my best friend, he said, I'm going to apologize to you in advance. And I didn't know what he's talking about, but I know he had to apologize when he tried to get Kunta Kinte to say Toby. Once Toby said Toby, he said, cut him down. And I went over and had a few lines in front of Kunta Kinte. That's Fiddler. I said, what you think about that white man calling you Toby? Kunta Kinte, that's your name. That's what you'll always be. And I looked at Vic. I looked at Lou, who was looking at Vic. And Fiddler was looking at that character and said, it's going to be a better day. That came out of me, was not in the script. And I said, like,
you mean that very, very famous scene where
Yes.
you went up to him and said, you will always be Kinto Kinte.
that was in the script. There was going to be a better day, was not.
Really? That was you, and they kept it in.
They kept it in.
Unbelievable. And just to finish it, the fourth movie was Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil.
I think that starred Orson Welles.
I think it's because I was so impressed with his acting. He's one of my favorite actors in the world. I think that's what it was.
Well, you know, when you talk about the great actors you've worked with, I know you played cards under the stage with Sidney Poitier when you were in A Raisin in the Sun.
And Paul Newman.
And Paul Newman, too?
They was next door in Cadillac. Him and Eva, they'd come and visit us in the matinees and play poker.
That's just amazing. But you've worked with so many great legends. Maya Angelou, James Earl Jones, Shirley Booth, Maggie Smith, Cloris Leachman, Olympia Dukakis.
Oh, yes, sir.
And you were directed by George Cukor.
Yes, sir.
Who were some of your best friends in the industry?
Well, my best friend, boy, there were so many wonderful friends. James Garner. He was my buddy. That's why I did so many Rockford Files. That's why I did Skin Game with it. There was no acting involved there. We giggled a lot. And that's one of my best friends. Michael Landon, my next door neighbor. Nick Nolte, my down the street neighbor. And rubbed elbows with some pretty nice people. Elliot Gould, Barbara Streisand later on when she played Mrs. Marmosteen. I could get it for you wholesale. I was next door with Shirley Booth in the desk set. Great story about Shirley Booth. I was pre-Broadway, the desk set. And we went to the DuPont Theater to open it up. And they sold the house out because of Shirley Booth. And they said, you know, you can't go to just any restaurant. It's below the Mason-Dixon. I said, yeah, I know. So I walked carefully down the street. I saw a restaurant, New England Bar, New England Seafood. That's the place I wanted to go. So I went in there, and they wouldn't serve me.
In New York?
No, in Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh, you were in previews. In Wilmington, Delaware, you go into the restaurant, and they won't serve you.
They won't serve me. It's called the New England Bar. So my heart's broken. I go back to the hotel to rehearse. I can't remember a line. And Shirley says, what's the matter with me? So reluctantly, I told her what happened. She said, you go back to the hotel room. Everything's going to be okay. So the door knocks, and then comes the suitcase. Pack your bags. We're going away. Within the time I finished packing my bags, unpack your bags. We're staying. So it says, if you don't serve that man in this town, you're not going to get any performance from me. That's my gift from Shirley.
God bless that woman. And what a horrible scourge on the history of North America. I since you've raised this issue,
it's happening even as we speak, isn't it not? It's happening right now. When
yes,
do we
it
learn?
is. Well, I want to ask you about the racism that you've endured in your life. You wrote a lot about it in your amazing book, An Actor and a Gentleman, which in my opinion, everybody needs to read. But as I was reading what you endured to make it as a Black actor in an industry that was totally controlled by white people, you had to have a very thick skin, Lou. How did you develop such a thick skin?
Well, I was taken and adopted by the people I grew up with. The Ed Bondys, Abe Blasvogels, the Gus Bloombergs, the Barbara Streisand, the Elliot Goulds. We hung out, played elbows, and we started in New York theater, New York television, David Susskind. All those people, we were together. We played with the restaurants. None of that was there. So when they started to take over and move to Hollywood, which they would not sell, they bought Hollywood. So one of the men who owns the Universal, Lou Wasserman, out of Detroit, just like Brooklyn, it doesn't matter. He bought it, he says, okay, I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm calling Louis Gossett to do my first movie of the week. First movie of the week is called Companions in Nightmare. So he's seen me on Broadway, he's seen me on New York television. He said, hey, Louis, come on out. So he came in first class. I had the champagne and oysters, and they thought I was an African diplomat. We land on LAX, and a limousine comes and takes me off first, and takes me to the Beverly Hills Hotel and puts me in the presidential suite. That's my people from Brooklyn, from New York. I haven't even missed a beat. I mean, the food is there, and hors d'oeuvres. And he said, oh, by the way, you have a car waiting for you. Budget rent-a-car is where my car was, that they rented for me. So I go to Laurel Canyon, and there's this Ford Galaxy 500 with a hard top. Well, I'm in 7. It took me 4.5 hours to get from Laurel Canyon to Beverly Hills Hotel. I could stop by every policeman within ear and eye shot, under cars, for the first time in my life. So finally, after they finished, I went to the hotel, and the hotel manager said, what happened to you? I said, they said, well, let me explain something. They're the offspring of the people who helped World War II. And they come out of Mississippi and Alabama and Texas. They built it there. So let's give them a break. So I took a deep breath, and I said, oh, by the way, after you eat your dinner, here's a map of the movie stars' homes. Go see it. O'Brien's right across the street. Clark Gable's down the way. Go see it. Take pictures. And so I got out there with the flashlight and the map, and I look up, and there's 15 cops looking at me. They ended up handcuffing me to a tree for walking in Beverly Hills at 9 o'clock at night.
Because you were Black in 1968
66.
in Beverly Hills.
66. That was it. So I got up there and let me go. And they spent as much health and much muscle as they could. The head of the studios, the head of CBS, the head of ABC, made them let me go. A couple of judges. So I called my agent, Ed Bondy. He says, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to go back to work. He said, that's what I expected you to do. I said, I'll be right there. He isn't going now. He's going to be right there. So I got into the car. They gave me the first parking lot 1 at Universal. And on that set was Gig Young, Ann Baxter, William Redfield, Melvin Douglas. And I was the homicide detective. One of those people who were killing people in a group therapy session. And on the homicide detective trying to figure who that murderer is. Turns out to be Gig Young.
It's so incredibly shameful, and it's so remarkable that you were able to keep going. And I have to tell you, Lou, one of the most heartbreaking things I read in your book was your relationship with Lillian Kyle, a beautiful, wonderful white woman that you were in love with. And you
Yes.
felt you had to end that relationship because of racism. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I did because they didn't want her around. And it left a scar in my soul. Every time I'd go someplace, I'd find myself another one. And I'd show up with on the set of Officer and Gentleman with somebody looked like Rhonda Fleming. I'd show up with different people as a rebel. I rebelled because I was doing okay. I didn't care about the money. I had the love. I was in Topanga Canyon. I was in Malibu. I had Michael and I was taking care of it. So the need for the money kind of disappeared a little bit. Back in those days, they were wrong.
But you were basically told that if you continued in a relationship, in a mixed race relationship, your career would be over.
It's be over. And you have to move out of here. You're going to be legitimately lynched. We can't lynch you, but we can lynch you. And you can look at the people who have done that with me. Remember Calvin Lockhart? Remember Otis Young? Remember Rupert Cross? God rest his soul. My favorite actor, Billy D. Williams. Where is he? It's still happening. It's got to stop because now our planet is dying.
What do you think is the key to the answer? What are we missing as a society?
Unconditional love and understanding with one another. First with ourselves, to eliminate the revenge, hate. And it's the worst resentment you can have is when you feel justified to keep. It's got to go away. No justification for any anger or revenge or resentment. Gone. You have to be a child of God and follow instructions.
Well, once you became a very successful actor, did it become important to you to choose roles that would inspire young Black people and give them positive role models on the screen?
Sir. Yes, I get that feedback today, even here in Georgia. I get the feedback every day. And I get some tough guys come to me. I don't want them to steal my money. No, they shake my hand and say, thank you. As a result, I turned down Pulp Fiction because the man cursed too much right after Officer and Gentleman. So Sam Jackson did that. I was offered Pulp Fiction. And Tarantino was still angry at turning it down. But I did not want to play that character. After doing Officer and Gentleman, I could not play that character in Pulp Fiction. I couldn't do it.
I think that's so remarkable that you were so aware of your status as a role model.
I guess I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it came from. Because people say that's foolish. Get the gig and do the gig. Get the money. Go run it someplace. I just wasn't happy doing that.
But you never ran out of roles. You've had one of the most prodigious careers in the history. Yeah. I mean, the longevity of your career. What do you think accounts for that longevity?
I don't know. I'm trying to write the second part of the book now to see if I can figure it out. More of the same. I don't know. Maybe it has to do with God's inclusion. The priorities are not me. You give it away to keep it. That's one of the things that is one of the ways. You give it away in order to keep it.
I think that part of your secret of success and longevity is your ability not just to be a good actor, but you will take on very diverse roles.
Oh, the more difficult, the better. Enemy Mine. The creation of a character from another planet. 6 hours of makeup. I had to study with a ballet, a mime, and a scuba diver to create this character with another philosophy. Your Mickey Mouse is one big dope. Famous quote.
Lou, I want to take you back to the swearing in of Barack Obama as the 44th president of the United States. You were there that day. What was going through your mind?
Well, as you see the scenario, it's like these lawn chairs. Cicely Tyson was in front, so I'd let her sit on the lawn chair. She stood up on the lawn chair. She's right in front of me, and up a 45-degree angle is Michelle and Barack and the judge. And once he put his hand on the Bible and said, I do, Cicely claps. I caught her. We both collapsed on the floor in tears. That's where that started. Who would ever thought that in their lifetime? Now, there's been a process now. I'm glad that this has happened because I've been a partier. I've been on drugs and stuff and alcohol. And I'm in recovery. I'm a leader in that area, helping others do the same. So I'm not ashamed of that. I've bathed myself clean. I'd like to be, but I have a lifetime bar from the Kennedy Center on this. But Robert Downey Jr., in charge. No, that doesn't make sense. I can concentrate on that or get on with this thing. I get on a daily basis. Speak to people like yourself. Speak to God on a daily basis. Take care of myself as much as possible. There was a time just recently that I was getting ready to give up. That's not the case today. Every time I do that, somebody comes out of the woodwork and says, thank you.
You'll never give up, Lou. You know you'll never give up, because inside, deep, what I feel from you is that you do have hope. You have faith that racism will be abolished.
It's the only thing we got. We get rid of that together. We've got to get rid of it. Otherwise, we're all lost. We need each other so desperately for a mutual salvation. One nation under God, indivisible.
You know, Lou, when I look at your journey, you worked very, very, very hard to create the career you've had. You were in a movie with Fantasia. She was in an American Idol. It was a contest. She became a star very quickly. You were not an overnight success like many stars are today. What do you say to young actors who are struggling to make a success of themselves? Because so many of them make it big very fast, and then they don't know how to sustain that career. But you did.
Well, that success is called a copper penny. But there's a T-shirt in the back that I wear, and it says a T-shirt for the kids. And I asked them before I speak, they say it 3 times with me. There is no such thing as impossible. No such thing. Say it 3 times. And again, I wish you a good day. No such thing as impossible. No such thing as impossible. Okay, so here I am with my niece, God. What's my instructions for the day? We're not in charge. We are not in charge. So all that goes with it, that ego and all stuff goes in the garbage.
You've been able to put your ego aside, trusting God.
Yes, sir.
Well, when you wrote that very powerful book in 2010, and what a life you've lived, Lou, I cannot stress enough that the fact that you've survived and endured and triumphed is a miracle. Tell me why you felt it was important to write that book.
The spiritual momentum, that was the time. That was the time to play that character in Enemy Mine. That was the time to write that book. And that was the time to find somebody who would write it faithfully. And I found that later. I just got it was her birthday today. Phyllis Terrace is her birthday today.
Happy birthday, Phyllis. You are clearly a man of faith. You have a very strong connection to the Lord. And many times in your life, if I understand correctly, you have been saved. You narrowly escaped being murdered by Charles Manson on the night that he killed Sharon Tate in 2008. Absolutely. Right? And then in 2008, when you were about to receive the Mary Pickford Award, you suffered respiratory failure and you were about to die. But you heard a voice telling you to go back. It's not your turn.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do you make of that?
You connect the dots after a while. And if you see, you know, my great-grandmother used to tell me, there's a phrase coming out of people, a hard head makes a soft behind. If you're hard-headed and you're stubborn, I'm going to have to beat you again. Get a switch until your behind is softened up. So that phrase in life, to keep doing things expecting different results, no longer works. It's a faithfulness. It's trust. It's faithfulness that eventually somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and save me, sent by God. I collect those stories about other people who do that, and I want to do that on the podcast.
I know you were very, very sick in the hospital with COVID a few years ago. How is your health now, Lou? How are you feeling?
Right now, I'm in the middle of a comeback again. When I was not doing well, I had my doubts. I made a decision. That's it. I guess it's not. My weight's coming back. My thought process is clear. And I never thought I'd be like this, and only halfway back.
The world needs you too much, sir. We can't let you go. We cannot let you go.
Whatever God wants, I'll do.
Well, I have only one more question for you, Lou. How would you like to be remembered?
Oh, boy. That's a tough one. Because it's going to be different in each mind. It's going to be different in each mind. I don't know. But just don't forget, there's 2 S's and 2 T's in the junior.
I think you're going to be remembered not only as a brilliant actor, but as an ambassador for unity, unification, tolerance, compassion, peace, harmony, and understanding, respect, dignity. That's what I see when I look at you.
Yeah, well, it's my belief, sir, and we can say goodbye then, that there was a point when I was dying, where the enemy had got me by the throat and I was dying. And the faith of the elimination of racism gotten so apparent that we speak about it on major TV today, every day, out of Tennessee and Florida and Israel and Lebanon. It's the only thing necessary for us to save the day. Is the faith that God's in charge. We have to give it away in order to keep it. It has nothing to do with money or munitions or power. It has to do with how close we get to that higher power we call God, and get his instructions on what we can do to lend our experience, strength, and hope to the improvement of mankind. Magic comes with it.
Well, my dear Lou, I have to tell you something. When you were a young boy, your family told you many times that you were special, that you were the chosen one. And I hope you know that with everything you've achieved in your life, you have made your parents, your family, your community, the whole world very proud of you.
I appreciate it.
I want you to know how much I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. I have loved and admired and respected you so very much for the way you've lived your life, the example that you set for all of us. Thank you for all the great performances. Thank you for the lessons you've given us. And I thank you with all my heart for giving me this interview.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. You have a blessed day. Best to your family.
You are in my prayers forever.
I look forward to it. I can't make it without that. Thank you.
Our guest has been the one and only Louis Gossett Jr. Thank you to my producer, Steve Silver, my director of programming, Deborah Batsafin, who is a miracle worker, my PR director, Lori Towers, another miracle worker, and my entire team at the XPTV1 network in the UK. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be